What if Deku was a warlock? Part 3. Now, before I get into this what if, there's something that I need to point out. In my last episode, where I said that Deku was testing out all of his Nova abilities, and that he just unlocked a Sun Singer, I accidentally put it Vortex Grenade as the super move, when really Vortex Grenade is just, another grenade, where Nova Bomb is actually the real super move. But for those of you who are Destiny fans, you'll know what I'm talking about anyway. But like I said in one of my videos before, what I say in my stories I cannot take back and I won't take back. So unfortunately, Vortex Grenade is going to have to be another word for Nova Bomb. So we're going to continue calling it Vortex Grenade instead of Nova Bomb. Now, without further ado, this is What If Deku Was a Warlock, Part 3. We continue where we last left off. There is only one more day before the UA entrance exams. Izuku and his ghosts are on the internet. The ghost is using his data collecting abilities to learn all there is to know about history, technology, greatest heroes, etc. The ghost then says, "Wow, this is wonderful. So many things to learn here." Izuku then says, "Yeah, it is." Izuku is interrupted by his mother calling for him. Izuku heads to the living room and Inko is watching the news. There is a catastrophe in progress. Izuku is looking at the TV and all he can feel is rage. "Is that him?" Inko asked. For you see, what was causing all the catastrophe on the news was the same sludge villain that killed Izuku 9 months ago. Izuku had a flashback to when the sludge villain first encountered him. Back then, he was filled with fear, and something that a man like Izuku never wants to feel. Weak. There was now anger look on Izuku's face, along with the thoughts of revenge. Inko sees her son's face and says, "Izuku? It's okay, son." Inko is about to get up and comfort her son when Izuku runs out of the front door and flies away. The ghost then says, "Guardian, where are we going?" Izuku is silent, only focusing on the task at hand. He makes his way to the same location as the sludge villain, landing on top of a roof in an alleyway. Izuku sees the sludge villain. He is being cornered by police officers and other pro-heroes. Izuku wants to take action, but he sees that the sludge villain has a hostage, a child. This child has snow white hair and one horn on the forehead. This is eerie, by the way. Izuku thinks of a way to get the kid out of there so that he can confront the sludge villain. After a few seconds, Izuku gets an idea. The sludge villain then says, "Don't come any closer or the girl gets it." As he says this, he hears the sound of glass tapping the ground right behind him. He looks and sees a small purple orb of light, and before he knows it, it explodes. His back. Izuku sees an opportunity. He jumps from the top of the roof that he was on and grabs the girl and takes her to safety. Izuku looks to the heroes and tells them, "Keep her safe." Izuku walks back to the sludge villain as the heroes and people witnessing this yelling at him to come back. Izuku is face to face with the sludge villain as he continues to recover from the grenade he threw behind him. The sludge villain looks at a suited up Izuku and says, "Who the hell are you?" Izuku says, "Well, allow me to introduce myself this time." "This time," says the sludge villain. Izuku takes off his helmet and says, You remember me now? The sludge villain's eyes widen, seeing Izuku's face. How are you alive? Asked the sludge villain. That won't be none of your concern after I'm done with you, says Izuku. Izuku rushes towards the sludge villain with a melee attack, trying to drain his stamina, but the sludge villain dodges. He then tries to grab Izuku with his tendrils, but Izuku glides over the sludge villain while doing a backflip, landing right behind him. Izuku throws a Nova Bomb at the sludge villain. It explodes on impact, but all it does is splatter the sludge villain all over the walls, and it recovers almost instantly. While all this is going on, Inko is watching the news and sees her son is fighting the villain. And like any other mother, she is scared for her child's safety. Back at the battle, Izuku is getting exhausted while the sludge villain is just laughing at him. Tired, are we? Says the sludge villain. Izuku is running out of options. He's tired. He's tried so many void abilities, and he doesn't want to use Sunsinger as it is too powerful, and it might end up harming the innocent people near him. He doesn't want to use Vortex Grenade, for it might do the same kind of damage in a small area. Izuku can only think of one thing. He's going to have to draw the sludge villain away to a more open area so that he can go all out. Izuku says, "You know, for a guy with power, you're not all that dangerous." "What did you say?" said the sludge villain. Izuku continues to insult the sludge villain. "Yeah, you're just sludge. I could compare you to Play-Doh. You're nothing but a slimy, stinky, worthless excuse for a villain, if you call yourself one." The sludge villain grows mad at these statements and says, "I'll show you worthless!" The sludge villain then charges at Izuku. Izuku glides away and hopes that the sludge villain would follow, but things didn't go quite as planned. As he jumps, the sludge villain then grabs Izuku's legs as he was trying to leap away. All of the sudden, Izuku had an unwanted flashback to when the sludge villain first grabbed him by the leg. Izuku is frozen because of his anxieties are getting the best of him. The sludge villain then pulls Izuku down to him. He then wraps Izuku with his tendrils. His arms and legs are bounded together. There is no escape. The ghost then says, "Guardian? Snap out of it, Guardian. Come on, Guardian, snap out of it." Izuku, still frozen with fear, for you see, for the past few months, Izuku has been dealing with nightmares of that day when the sludge villain first attacked him. He's also been dealing with trauma, avoiding all situations that bring him back to that unwanted memory. All of the day, he has been having heightened reactions and in somewhat depressed moods. Izuku is suffering from PTSD. The sludge villain brings Izuku closer and closer to his face and says, "You're holding back, aren't you? Well, guess what? I'm going to use your body again, but this time, I'm gonna go on a murdering spree and kill everyone I come across using your quirk. And they'll all think that it's you and you alone. But I won't let you die this time. I'm going to let you live, and you'll have to deal with all the blood on your hands. Doesn't that sound fun?" The sludge villain then gets closer and closer to Izuku's face. The ghost inside of Izuku's mind says, "Guardian!" All Izuku can hear is the echoey voice of his ghost. Inside of Izuku's head, his memories of that sludge villain playing over and over again under the bridge. Izuku's mind feels like it's about to fall apart into pieces until the ghost enters his mind and talks to Izuku. For a moment, the memory pauses, and the only ones that are moving are Izuku and the ghosts. The ghost then says, "Guardian, are you okay?" Izuku says, "No, I am broken. I feel so useless. There's no one at my side." A moment of silence goes by when the ghost speaks. "Well, I am here," says the ghost. Izuku looks at his ghost and listens to what he has to say. The ghost continues. "You know, I never knew you in your first life. The life you lived before me, anyway. But you died way before my time. But I can tell that something special brought us together. Not just the Vex taking me back in time, but the Traveler. And when it arrived, when humanity was at the brink of extinction, it changed your world forever. And for centuries, humanity thrived, until it didn't. An ancient enemy pursued the Traveler across the universe that caused humanity's near extinction once again. And at the time, the Traveler made a choice. It sacrificed its ancient enemy and brought life to the ghost. I am a ghost, and even though I've said this many times, it is my honor to say it again. I am your ghost, and you are one of the Traveler's chosen. You are a guardian, and no matter what, I will always be there with you. This is your destiny." Izuku's memory cracks behind him like a shattered mirror. He stands up and reaches towards his ghost. Back in reality, the sludge villain is about to enter Izuku's mouth when all of a sudden, Izuku's eyes widen, bringing him back to reality. And the sludge villain looks down Izuku's throat and sees a red and orange light in Izuku's mouth. The sludge villain then says, "What the hell?" All of a sudden, Izuku begins to breathe fire on the sludge villain. The sludge villain then drops Izuku as a fire burned one of his eyes. Izuku is on the ground. He then brings himself up to his knees, regaining his breath. After 10 seconds, he realizes he just breathed fire. He looks at the sludge villain and sees fire hurts him the most. Izuku focuses and breathes fire again. The sludge villain then proceeds to crawl away from Izuku, but Izuku follows. The sludge villain has cornered himself. Izuku sees an opportunity to finish off the sludge villain, but is stopped when the ghost speaks to him. "Guardian, are you going to..." Izuku looks at the sludge villain, then looks at the crowd, then looks back at the sludge villain again. Izuku thinks for a second, and then runs to grab his helmet and glides away, leaving the mostly charred and burnt, but still alive sludge villain to the heroes. After some time, Izuku lands on top of an abandoned building and says, "Ghost, was that Sunsinger?" The ghost then says, "No, Guardian, that was you." Izuku is in so much disbelief because his quirk just activated. "It's the same quirk as my father's," says Izuku. Izuku gets up and heads home. Izuku opens and closes the door after he enters, and Inko runs up to him and hugs him. Inko then says, "Izuku, are you okay? I just saw everything on the news." Izuku then responds with, "Yeah, I'm okay." Inko is now angry, then says, That was stupid, son. Don't ever do that again. Izuku then apologizes to Inko, and she says, "You breathe fire, just like your father." Izuku then says, "Yeah, I did. I guess I'm a late bloomer." Inko then cries in tears, and after apologizing like 100 times, Izuku goes to his room and rests for the next day for the UA entrance exams. While he is sleeping, Izuku has a dream that he is floating in space. He feels calm and relaxed, and his ghost comes out and says, "So, Guardian, how are you feeling?" Izuku then replies saying, "I'm great, thank you." A moment of silence goes by for the both of them, and then Izuku breaks it. "You know, you really saved me back there. Even though I can't really die, I'm really grateful you came along into my life. Thank you, Ghost." "With pleasure, Guardian." A few hours later of sleeping, Izuku wakes up feeling like a new man. We then head to the UA entrance exams. Izuku is in his normal clothing and is thinking to himself, "Okay, after all my training, I'm ready for whatever comes my way." After he says that, he falls forward, but before he hits the ground, he uses his levitation abilities on one of his hands and basically does a backflip on the UA over the head columns. After he lands, he hears a girl yelling, "Wow, that was so cool!" Izuku yells back, "Thanks." He then jumps off the pillar. "It's just a little something I can do." The girl then says, "Cool. I saw you almost fell, and I was about to use my quirk to keep you from falling, but it looks like you had it under control." Izuku says, "Oh, well, I appreciate your concern, but what's your quirk?" The girl then says, "Levitation. Anything I come in contact with, I can make it float, no matter how big or heavy it is. But I do have a little bit of a limit, though. If I make too many things float at the same time, I get sick." Izuku says, "Oh, it sounds like a pretty good quirk." I'm Izuku Midoriya, by the way. I'm Ochako Uraraka. She then asks, "What's your quirk?" Izuku says, "Well, I have two quirks. I can breathe fire, and I have void light manipulation. I can bend cosmic energy to my will and use it as a weapon." Uraraka, with stars in her eyes, then says, "Wow, that's amazing." "Thanks," says Izuku, "but I can't breathe fire very long. Otherwise, I have a hard time breathing." "Oh man," says Uraraka, "it's cool regardless." "Thanks," says Izuku. They both make their way inside of the building. Right behind them, a couple of feet away, Bakugo saw the whole thing that had happened. Bakugo then says, "Wait, how? I thought he was quirkless. What the hell?" Inside the UA building, Izuku does good on the written exams. We then cut to President Mike, who is giving a presentation about how to rack up points. Izuku is sitting down and listening until Bakugo comes up to him and says, "Alright, explain yourself, you damn nerd." Izuku sighs. "What do you mean?" says Izuku. Bakugo then says, "You know what I'm talking about. You're supposed to be quirkless. So how did you do what you just did outside, huh?" Izuku stays quiet, ignoring Bakugo. Bakugo grows irritated at Izuku and yells, "Talk, you damn nerd!" A blue-headed boy yells at Bakugo, telling him to be quiet. Bakugo just yells back, saying, "You be quiet, you blue-headed bastard! No one's talking to you!" Bakugo is setting off a couple of explosions. President Mike then says, "Hey, no quirk usage during orientation, otherwise you're disqualified. Now sit down and listen. This isn't over, you damn nerd." Bakugo then leaves Izuku be, and we skip to mock exams. Izuku is ready and is about to tell the ghost to suit him up when he sees Uraraka with a troubled look on her face. He is about to go talk to her and calm her down when he feels a hand on his shoulder. It's the same blue-headed boy from the orientation. That girl looks like she's focusing on the task at hand. It's probably best to just let her be in focus. Izuku, with irritation and annoyance on his face, then says, "Yeah, whatever." "Okay," says the blue-headed boy. But Izuku went over to Uraraka anyway. He says, "Hey, you okay?" Uraraka then says, "Yeah, I'm just a little nervous." Izuku then says, "Well, that's normal. You just have to get into a positive headspace, take a deep breath, and then let it out slowly." Uraraka does this, and it cheers her up. Thank you, Izuku. I feel better now." "No problem," says Izuku. "Want to see something cool?" says Izuku. Uraraka then responds with, "Heck yeah!" Izuku then says, "Okay, watch this. But at the same time, don't look at me directly." Izuku then says, "Suit up!" Izuku's body is covered in a blinding green light. The light that was surrounding Izuku's body then fades away, and everyone is looking at Izuku in amazement in his new armor. Uraraka then says, "Wow." While at the same time this is happening, President Mike then says out loud over the speakers, "Wow, that was absolutely amazing! But all entertainment aside, it's time to get things started. Are you all ready?" The doors to the city open. President Mike then says, "Well then go, there's no countdown in a real battle." Everyone runs in. Izuku comes across a robot and uses all of his grenades, including Sun Singer grenades, and his Nova bombs to destroy the robots that come across him. He keeps destroying robots until he comes across Uraraka, racking up points fast by having robots fall from a high distance. "Good job, Uraraka," says Izuku. She then yells back, "Thanks." A few minutes go by, and the ground is shaking, and everyone gets covered by a shadow. They look in the direction, and a gigantic zero-pointer robot is coming their way. And everyone is running. Izuku is about to follow along, but then he hears someone yelling for help. Izuku looks back and he sees it's Uraraka trapped under some rubble. Izuku runs back towards the zero-pointer. Izuku then uses his gliding abilities and jumps really high. He puts both hands into the air and yells, "Vortex grenade!" The purple ball of light appears over Izuku's head, but it's bigger than the first time because Izuku is putting all of his energy into this attack. Izuku throws both of his hands down in a throwing motion, and the vortex grenade hits the robot in the chest. And in a few seconds, the top half of the robot is disintegrated, while the remaining half is just standing there still. Everyone is in so much bewilderment by Izuku's attack. Izuku yells. Izuku falls from a high distance. Izuku realizes his powers are drained from that attack and can't float anymore. Unfortunately for Izuku, he hits the ground and makes a deep crater in an alley where no one saw him land. Izuku has blood all over the ground. Izuku thinks he is about to die when the ghost says, "Don't worry, Guardian, I'll heal you." The ghost then makes Izuku disappear and then reappear feeling like a new man, all healed up, no broken bones. Izuku then says, "Thanks, Ghost." "No problem, Guardian." Izuku then emerges from the alley. Everyone was about to go see if he was hurt, but he walks out before anyone could see him in his injured state. Izuku then goes up to Uraraka, gets the rubble off of her, and then he helps her to the gurney to be taken to a recovery woman. Over the mic, you can hear, "Time's up!" Izuku then says, "Bye, Uraraka." And Uraraka says, "Thank you for saving me." "No problem," says Izuku. "See you around." Izuku then heads home. Inko greets her son at the door, saying, "Welcome back, son. How did you do?" "I think I did pretty good," says Izuku. "That's wonderful to hear, son." 2 weeks go by, and Izuku is in his room talking with Ikora. Ikora says, "Well, Guardian, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do for you or your ghost. As far as I'm being told, you both are doing pretty good so far on what I've been told." Izuku says, "Yeah, I guess we don't need your help after all. As long as the ghost is okay with being in this timeline, I think we're good." Izuku looks to the ghost and says, "You are okay with being here, right?" The ghost then says, "Of course, Guardian. If you are happy, so am I." Ikora then says, "Well, I'm sorry we couldn't do much, but Guardian, there is something I would like to ask you." Izuku is interrupted by a knock at the door. Izuku then says, "Sorry, Ikora, I have to go." Ikora then says, "Just get back to me when you can, Guardian. Bye now." The call ends, and Izuku opens the door to his mom on the other side. "Izuku, you got a letter from Yue." Izuku then takes the letter and says, "Thanks, Mom." Izuku then sits the letter on the desk, and he opens it. A holographic projector then falls from it. All Might then appears on this holographic projection saying, "I am here on a projection screen. Congratulations, young man. You have successfully ranked up more than enough points to get in. Your score was a whopping 80 villain points." Izuku is overflowing with cheer. "We did it, Ghost!" All Might then interrupts again, saying, There are more. There are more points that be added on. There are such things called rescue points. When you jumped in to save that girl, that earned you a whopping 60 points added. A complete total of 130 points. Let me be the first to welcome you to UA. Great job, young man. Izuku then yells from the top of his lungs, "Yes!" Izuku then opens the door to his room and hugs his mom, saying, "I got the top score." Inko then begins to cry tears of joy for her son. "I'm so proud of you, son. You really are going to be one of the greatest someday." Izuku then smiles, and that's where I'm gonna leave part 3. Okay, so that came out nice. So for those who actually watched the video to the end, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and #bless.